Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcoming. Wow. From where do we start?
I don't know.
You know, if it was the first season of Fauda and you needed to write it now, how would you open the season?
Whew. We're dealing now with the challenge of writing the fifth season that is a bit more challenging after 4 seasons and after everything that happened.
To speak louder? Yeah, you speak louder.
Okay. We had the challenge of writing 4 seasons, and then you need to write the 5th one, and it's after everything that happened on October 7th, and you don't really know where is it going to lead you. I mean, we started to write something that was irrelevant after October 7th, so we had to get rid of everything and start from the beginning. And we found a very interesting story that is, kind of dialoguing with the reality. It's not about October 7th, but it has some kind of a connection. I must say that, a few weeks before the October 7th war, we were debating. In my apartment, this is a kind of an Israeli version of a writer's room, where a few Israelis gather and scream at each other and try to get to the understanding of where the script is going.
It's a normal, gathering when few Israelis just scream at each other.
Totally. And Lior was pitching an idea of tens of militants, that are crossing the border and taking over a kibbutz and taking hostages. And Noach, the chief scriptwriter, was very much enthusiastic about the idea. And I was like, guys, come on, it's not realistic. And I'm the kind of the keeping kosher in the show that needs to say what's realistic and what's not, because of covering the Palestinian side for quite many years. And I said, this is not realistic enough. I mean, there's no way that the Israeli intelligence won't know in advance about tens of militants getting to the border. And even if they will get to the border, so then immediately they will be killed. So this is where we stopped it and went to another scenario that deals with peace, by the way.
Yeah, we will talk about peace at the end.
Yeah.
But let's talk about October 7th and about this scenario that you said that is basically unreal. And this is the question that I've been asking a lot of high-ranked intelligence officers, and I'm asking them how come? Because I watched a lot of videos. I went to one of the units, and I sat down with one of the officers, and he showed me some videos. And this is unbelievable. Like, when you see it, it's unbelievable. You just see 2 people coming to the border, just placing a bomb, stepping, few steps, and then just blowing the bomb and then entering. Like, so simple. How come something like that happens on October 7th? And nobody could give me like an answer that, I said, okay. Because really, the scenario didn't exist.
No.
Nobody thought that like tens of thousands of Palestinians at the end, at a certain point, will go to the borders and will go to the fence and try to enter?
Today we were witnessing sun eclipse.
Yeah.
I think that what we had witnessed in Gaza on October 7th, that was total eclipse of policy decision makers, of intelligence, of IDF on the ground troops. All of them failed one after the other. There's not one man or one woman who are responsible for that, but all of them. From the Hamas point of view, it's like winning the lottery twice in a row. I mean, I don't think that they ever expected that they would success that big, that they would win that big, that they would manage to bring thousands of terrorists into Israeli land to kill 1,200 people, to kidnap 240, and in such a terrible way get over those kibbutz and towns for hours and hours and hours, and nothing happens. Now you ask the question, how?
How come?
And in the last 6 months, all of us Israelis, we're all shocked, we're all post-traumatic, we're all suffering from, each and every one of us knows someone who got killed or injured or kidnapped or just, became post-traumatic. And all of us as a nation are trying to understand what on earth went wrong. And there are so many wrongs that were made and done. I think that it's some kind of a combination between a feeling that we're too strong, too confident of ourselves, like Hamas is terrified from Israel, Hamas is deterred, and we're able to ride the panther or the tiger's back, meaning to sit on a panther, to sit on a tiger, and to be in control. That was the policy that this government, that the Israeli government was leading since 2009, that it can control Hamas, that it can pay Hamas money, and by that, they will be nice people. And I don't blame Hamas. Hamas did not try to lead us and mislead us to all kinds of, we want peace with you, and then surprise us. It's not that they were saying, wow, we really want to achieve some kind of living together, ta'ayush, or something. No. In each and every meeting that I had, and I've been covering Gaza for quite many years, and until 2007, I was allowed to go to Gaza. And I think that I've met with all Hamas leadership. By the way, Lucy and I, we've met in Jenin refugee camp. That was our first meeting.
Our first date.
Yeah.
It's a very nice place to have a date in. Jenin.
I asked her to come with me to a theater.
Yeah.
No,
it's
real.
Really, it's real. Yeah.
It's a theater that was open in Jenin's refugee camp by a man who led the Al-Aqsa Brigade till that moment. Mm-hmm. That was after 2007 coup in Gaza. And the man decided not to remain a terrorist, and decided to become a theater manager. So
happens to everyone.
Yeah. So I think that, going back to Gaza, every time that I had those meetings with Hamas, they said the same truth. We're going to eliminate the state of Israel.
They're still saying that.
Yeah, they're still saying that.
They're still saying that.
Out in the open, they're not trying to be nice. The first meeting that I had with Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, the founder of Hamas, in his house, with Ismail Haniyeh as the head of his office. And he tells me, we're going to have an Islamic state from the river to the sea. And not like many kids here, he knew which river and which sea. And I told him, but what will happen with all the Jews that are living there? And he said, you will go back to your houses in Europe and in the US. And I said, but Simach Sheikh, Mr. Sheikh, look at me. I'm not coming
European.
from Europe.
I'm not European.
I mean, my
I
ancestors,
look more European than you.
My family did not come from Europe or from the US, and said, where are you from? I said, half of it is from Kurdistan and half of it is from Uzbekistan. And they came, and when he asked me, when did they arrive? And I said, like at the end of the 19th century. I said, okay, you can stay.
It's a good deal.
Which is great.
So you closed it with the sheikh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said you're going to have a passport.
Did you sign a release or something?
He said you're going to have a Palestinian passport. I swear. So if Hamas is going to take over all of Israel, I'm fine.
So you're okay. Do you know that I'm not?
Yeah. I'm Arab, Muslim.
I'm Arab, Muslim, who grew up in a semi-secular Jewish town in the south of Israel that, according to foreign press, we have a certain facility there. I don't know which. And I'm married.
Factory.
Yeah, the textile factory.
And at the age of 5?
Yeah, at the age of 5, I went through a terror attack in the Gaza Strip. And then at the age of 38, I got married with Tzachi Halevi, who's, look, everyone here. You know, every
I
place
wanna
that
ask
I
you a
go,
question.
every
I
place
wanna
that I
ask you a
go,
question.
people are asking me, where is Tzachi?
Yeah.
It's like I'm not enough anymore.
No, it's women. Let's
women.
be more
Yes.
accurate. It's women asking
definitely.
where is Tzachi.
Yeah, where is Tzachi?
And how is it to be married to a sex symbol?
Did you hear him snore?
I was with him in the army, but I didn't get a chance to.
So you know, like the less sexy size.
Yeah, but you
there.
really represent the complexity of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. You know, for us, I think that I like the complexity. Always, I'm living it. But on October 7th, it actually, like, it hit me. It hit me the second that that Tzachi, 40 minutes into, like, the first siren, just was on his uniforms and told me, get into the safe room, I'm heading out. And I looked at him and I told him, what do you mean you're heading out? He told me, I'm going out. It's not a drill, and it's not another round of violence. It's a war. And when he went out and I stepped into the safe room with our child, with Adam, who's half Muslim, half Jewish, and I was in the safe room there with him, I said, oh my God, this you cannot explain to anyone. You cannot explain, because I was already predicting all the voices that people are going to deny what is happening, and of course people are going to say that Israel attacked itself and all the things that we're hearing and listening to, but I said nobody will understand this image that I just experienced.
No.
Like, nobody can understand the fact that I'm Muslim. I am a controversial figure in Israel. I'm not loved by the right wing in Israel. I'm not loved by the extreme, like, you know, the other side, like the left, the progressive left. I'm not liked by some of the Israeli Arab community. Of course, pro-Palestinians don't like me. So go and try to explain.
I love you, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And go to try and explain the complexity of the reality that we are living in Israel. Because people don't understand that, you know, I see all these kids chanting and screaming down the streets and Palestine from the river to the sea by any means. And I'm saying to myself, they have no clue.
No.
They have no clue. They don't understand. I think that most of them never been to Israel. Most of them never been to Palestine, for the Palestinian territories or the Gaza Strip. Most of them don't understand how it feels to be Palestinian or how it feels to be Israeli. And yet, they don't understand the complexity of the reality of the truth that we're living in Israel. And you know, yeah, October 7th, I think.
You know, October 7th, again, it shocked me just like it shocked everyone else in Israel.
It really shocked you?
Totally. And again, I think that I took it a bit personally, because how come that I didn't see it?
Exactly.
How come that, you know, I, as someone who spent time in Gaza more than anyone else in Israel.
You're a Palestinian analyst,
Hamas analysts, again, meeting with all Hamas officials. I have great pictures with all of them. They knew me very well. I was in their houses. Not the guys that were released after the 2011 Shalitz deal, but the people that were before that, like Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, Ismail Hania, Mahmoud al-Zahar, Ismail Rad, all of them. They knew me personally. So you think you get them. You think you understand them. You think that, you know, just like the same concept, the conception, the wrong conception that everyone was sick in this conception in Israel. Meaning, at the end of the day, they're just like us. They just want to live, you know, in a kind of a normal way. If we will let 18,500 people to go and work in Israel, so that would create a better economy, prosperity in Gaza, and Hamas.
That was, we have to put an emphasis on that point, that was the situation on October 6th.
October 6th, and again, you know, a few weeks before the war, I've met a few Palestinians from Rafah, outside my house in Tel Aviv. They were working there. So even the siege was a myth. There was no siege over Gaza. I'm sorry to say that. I mean, I know that many people say, yeah, but they couldn't go this or that. But at the end of the day, the border with Egypt was open. You just needed to pay a lot of money because the Egyptians were taking a lot of money, and Hamas was charging a lot of money from anyone who wanted to leave Gaza. Then you had the almost 20,000 people that went to work in Israel every day. Then you had the people that needed medical treatment, so they went to hospitals in Israel and in the West Bank for that. Thousands of people every month. And this is an enemy entity that declares that it's interested in the elimination of the state of Israel. And still Israel was under the belief, okay, they're just like us, they don't want war. But we were wrong. Hamas is a terrorist organization that, just like in its chart, it's obligated to the elimination of the people that are living in Israel, including the Jews, including non-Jews, by the way. On October 7th, they killed Christians, they killed Muslims, they kidnapped Muslims, people that were, women that were wearing hijab, and still they shot them and killed them. Why? Why? Because they are Israelis? I mean, they're Muslims. This is something that drives me crazy, the lack of understanding of how dangerous this group is today in the West. When people are saying free Palestine, Gaza is not Palestine. Hamas is not Palestine. Hamas took over Gaza in a terrible, brutal coup in 2007, killing 160 members of Fatah, of their own people. When people are saying queers for Palestine, what on earth are you talking about? What on earth are you talking about? Do you understand that if you will stand up, you come as a queer for Palestine, as a delegation to visit Gaza, that will be your last day?
They don't understand that.
I know.
They don't understand that. I don't think that they understand it because they don't understand. It's all the new, TikTok, woke movement. I just understood that this is the word to describe what is happening here. They are waking. It's from the word waking up. Yeah? They're waking up to the world. I think that they woke up on the wrong side. And I really, I see these youngsters and I say to myself, we gave up on education. We totally gave up on education because, I see them. I see us giving up on the fact that people are not reading books, are not opening. People don't understand the effect of social media. I don't think that they really understand the effect of social media. On Operation Protective Edge, on my Wikipedia page in Arabic, it was written that my father was a high-ranked officer pilot leading one of the biggest attacks on Gaza in all the operations that led to Operation Protective Edge. Now, my father is afraid of flights. Plus, he's a Muslim living in Israel. He cannot even go near a cockpit. Okay? Has no chance of being a pilot in Israel, even if he really wants to. And since October 7th, my Wikipedia page changed at least 20 to 30 times. People just re-edit it. And people don't understand the effect of internet, the effect of social media, the effect of what is basically these youngsters are looking at. And I've been here on a round of lectures on campuses, and it drives me crazy that Jewish students feel afraid in 2024 in the United States of America. And I think that one of the problems is that everything is really shallow. The discourse is shallow. The discourse, even in Israel, I think, is shallow.
Totally. Totally. It's either, a complete victory or, that's it. We need to stop everything in order to... It's like going on between if you support the war, so you must be a pro-Bibi. If you're anti the war, so you're probably anti-Bibi. And it's not like that. It's way more complex than that. And sometimes reality is not about black and white. It's about 50 shades of gray. And, especially when you talk right now about the situation in Gaza, the way that I see it, of course, and this is my personal personal point of view, that even if there will be a ceasefire, and following the news in the last 24 hours, Hamas is already rejecting the U.S. proposal.
Yeah. And the Israel
But
proposal.
even if there will be a temporary ceasefire, Israel cannot allow itself to continue with Hamas as the regime in Gaza. It just cannot. I mean, it will be the most terrible thing that happened to the Western world if Hamas will manage to survive as a regime. I'm not saying as, one terrorist, two terrorists, but as a regime in Gaza, it would be a complete failure for the Western ideals. And I think that it's not going to stop in Gaza. It's going to come against the West, whether it's in Europe or in the US, because we cannot allow this terrorist organization to win.
So explain to me, what should Israel do? Because right now we're seeing the clash between the Israeli government and the American administration. Basically saying, guys, okay, you're not giving us any plan. You're not telling us what your plans for the day after. We talked about the humanitarian aid. We are talking about who is going to take control over the Gaza Strip. We offered a few options, and you didn't return our calls. At the end, it got to a point where we understood a few days ago that Biden picked up the phone to Benjamin Netanyahu. The day after, forces just withdraw from Khan Yunis. So what should Israel do right now? Enter Rafah, not enter Rafah, or should the United States understand that Gaza is a small symptom in the geopolitical, picture, and the big picture is Iran?
First of all, I want to say that, trying to understand what should we need to do in Gaza doesn't lead you to good answers and bad answers. It's, in between the bad, the worse, and the worst. Those are the options that we're facing right now in Gaza. I mean, October 7th started as a defeat, okay? So now you need to, first of all, build deterrence, make the other side think not 100 times, but 10,000 times before it's going to go to another war, including Hezbollah in the north, including the Iranian regime that needs to think, okay, what will be the price that we will pay if we will initiate something from our territory or from one of its friends like Yemen and the others. The other thing that we need to keep in mind as Israelis, and this is something that my prime minister tends to forget because of his political considerations, especially his fear from Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, is that the most important thing in Israel's strategy is the way that Rubi Rivlin used to say it, the president, former president, is A, Israel and U.S. relations, 2, Israel and U.S. relations, and 3, Israel and U.S. relations. And we need to keep it strong and going. So we can argue, but we need to keep it low, below the radar. Having a public confrontation between Biden and Netanyahu, or between Biden's team and Netanyahu's team, is not going to serve the interests not of Israel nor the U.S. So I think that, first of all, those two administrations need to sit down very quietly and understand what's the plan. From our side, from the Israeli side, I think that Israel should continue the war. I mean, we can go to a ceasefire in order to release the hostages, but at some point we will need to renew the war. But more than that, and that's the thing that I miss on the Israeli side, we need to come up with an exit plan. We need to come up with an alternative, meaning, like, okay, we can go on and fight Hamas. We can go to Rafah and kill more Hamas people and more civilians. We can then go to the central area of the refugee camps, Nuseirat, El Burej, and again, fight Hamas. But it will be over and done at some point. You need to come up with an alternative to Hamas's regime. You want to topple Hamas's regime, so bring on an alternative. Now, the American administration offered you not one time, not twice, 20 times, 30 times. Let's discuss the day after. And my prime minister refuses to do that. So if we will be smart enough to discuss the day after and what is the alternative to Hamas and push the alternative forward, we have the ability to win Hamas politically.
But, let's talk about the international community support of Israel. you know what, not the international community, let's talk about the American support, like you said. It feels that Israel is no longer a bipartisan issue. It was a bipartisan issue. You know, Israel was the state, was the friend of America, whether you were Democrat or Republican. And now, with everything that happened, also in the United States and in Israel, it seems that we're not a mutual thing. And the fact that this is happening can affect, you know, also the future of Israel and the day after that you're talking about.
Of course. But, you know, the bottom line is that Israel, at least, you know, I hardly understand Hamas, okay? So I definitely don't understand much about American politics. But there's one thing that I do think that we need to do is, you know, maximize the Israeli effort to keep it bipartisan and not playing to the hands of one camp. And I think that that was one of the biggest mistakes that were done by Netanyahu's government for more than a decade.
But this is what they're waiting for even right now. They're waiting for maybe Trump to be elected.
Yeah.
So they say it will be more convenient for Israel to deal with Trump than to
deal
deal with Biden.
The only problem is that we cannot wait. We cannot wait till November, not for the hostages, not for the state of Israel. And this is why, you know, we, and again, this is a kind of utopic fantasy, that this government will wake up from this crazy ideas that it has and think about what can we offer for the day after. Can we talk to the Palestinian Authority, for example? Allow the Palestinian Authority to go through some kind of a reform. Change. You know, going back to the story that, you know, where we've met in Jenin in 2007-8. It didn't happen just like that this guy, Zacharias Bedi, who was the commander of Al-Aqsa Brigades in Jenin, that suddenly decided to become a theater manager. It was after a major effort by the Palestinian Authority, hand in hand with the state of Israel, with the government of Israel, with the Shin Bet and Israeli intel, in order to wipe out all the militants, terrorists from the streets, and bring back a reformed Palestinian Authority.
A security coordination that works also right now.
Also now.
In the West Bank.
And suddenly, in 2007 and 2008, chaos that was there in the streets was gone. Suddenly you had law and order. And you know what's the word for chaos in Arabic?
Fawda.
That was just a kind of promotion for Netflix.
For season 5,
yeah.
Stay tuned. You know, if I look at the future of Israel, if I look at the future of the Middle East, I see a lot of, like, you know, October 7th was maybe the most horrible thing that happened to Israel since 1948. But also it can be a great opportunity because I see the peace agreement with Egypt. I see the peace agreement with Jordan. I see the Abraham Accords that we have. I see Saudi Arabia saying, guys, I want in everything that is happening right now. And it seems that we are not seeing this amazing opportunity, geopolitical opportunity of the Muslim Sunni moderate world collaborating with Israel and basically saying, guys, we have the same interests. And the interest is to get rid of all the radicalization that is happening in the Middle East, when the head is Iran and the Shiite, more extreme countries. So can we afford ourselves as Israel to miss this opportunity that October 7th brought into our doors, into our home?
I think that, you know, the biggest disasters in Israel's history, the biggest disaster to the Jewish people since the Holocaust, I totally agree, it presents to us a great opportunity for changing the face of the Middle East. And yes, uprooting the radicals. It begins with Gaza. It begins with uprooting Hamas's regime, weakening him, topple him, and bring in a more moderate solution. Now just imagine to yourself, if a Palestinian living in Gaza that hates Israel. I don't doubt that. You know, they hate Israel. Most of them.
Well, the Egyptians
support
don't like
Hamas.
Israel as well,
Yeah.
and the Jordanians don't
But
like
then-
Israel as well. And believe me, people who live in all the countries,
Yeah,
like,
but then you bring them a new regime that is offering them, listen, we can bring you into a better future, but it's a different way. It's not the terrorists' way. It's something else that we need to talk to. But you need also on the other side that someone will be willing to talk to you. That will open up the Arab world, the Sunni moderate Arab world, and that would be the biggest hit ever for the Iranian regime. This would be the biggest loss of the Iranian regime that is trying, through its proxies, to undermine not only Israel. I mean, with all the respect, Israel doesn't really interest them. What they want to topple, it's the Gulf countries, it's Saudi Arabia, first of all, and then the others like, okay, Egypt, Jordan, they want to take over and make those countries weaker.
and they're starting to do it, by the way, in
They
Jordan.
started to do it. We see that happening. And the best way to go against the Iranians is to show another alternative. But for that, you need an Israeli partner. This is what I'm saying, that we go back to the same circle of, who's going to be the first, the chicken or the egg. I think that it's both. It needs to happen at the same time.
So I will ask you a question about Israeli politics. Do you think that this can happen with the current Israeli government? And do you think that, the riots, the protests that are happening right now in Israel, asking for elections and the release of the hostages, can actually
Change?
change? Yeah.
So I don't think that we can manage to create a real change while this government is still in power. I think that, Netanyahu understands that the end of the war is the end of his government. And many people understand that. And this is why he's not that enthusiastic about ending the war. But having said that, I don't think that the state of Israel has an interest to finish the war just like it is right now, before it hits Hamas over and over and over again. About the demonstrations, I have to say that this is even a kind of a dilemma for me, on the personal level. Last year, I was very vocal against the government. I was in the demonstrations every Saturday night. I even had the chance to speak in one of those rallies in Kaplan on Saturday night in front of 130,000. And it's shocking, I must say. I mean, that was the first time for me. And I don't have any plans to go to politics, so it's probably the last one, maybe. But the things that I said there, and it was the most obvious thing, it wasn't such a clever thing, but the thing that I said over there is that I talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu and I said, our enemies, and I said, Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, are watching this legislative coup, I called it a coup, and are smelling the blood in the water. And they know that this is the time to attack. Now, you didn't need to be an analyst for Middle East issues in order to understand.
Or a prophet to see it.
No. I mean, every average Israeli, Middle Eastern, whatever, saw that, understood that. The Israeli intel tried to warn Netanyahu of a war because of this, reform, coup, whatever. And at the end of the day, this is the dilemma that I'm facing right now. Should I go and demonstrate and, back to the old demonstrations that we had, while there's still fight? I wouldn't say a war, because right now there's hardly one division in Gaza. There's no war in Gaza. I mean, there is an Israeli army force, a division in the central area in Wadi Razeh.
Yeah.
Wadi Razeh, in kind of a rift in between the North Gaza and the Southern Gaza. But the IDF withdrew from Northern Gaza. It withdrew from Khan Yunis area. So it's not such a big war. But there are some troops still on the ground, and there is an ongoing war in the north with Hezbollah. So what should I do? And I don't have a good answer. And even the hostages' families, I understand the catch-22 that they find themselves. Because the demonstrations are pushing the government to do something, but on the other hand, are making Hamas more radical.
Radical. You know, I'm as an Arab, as a Israeli citizen, Arab Israeli citizen, Muslim citizen. I look at you guys, I say.
Al-Yahud?
Al-Yahud.
The Jews.
The Jews. And I say to myself, I was taught that if you don't love yourself, you cannot love anybody else. You need to love yourself in order to be open for the love of anyone that comes into your life. And it seems in the last few years that the Jewish people don't love themselves in Israel. It's like ongoing fight between the right, the left, the religious, the non-religious, the secular, the settlers. And me as a Arab Israeli citizen, I look at this, and us Israeli Arabs suffer in Israel from other issues. I say to myself, if you guys don't love yourselves, where do I fit in? How would I fit in? How would I be able to find a place for me in Israel, and actually for you to regain the trust between Arabs and Jews when you guys don't have trust among yourselves?
So first of all, I must say that this Jew introduced her to her husband. So you can trust us.
It's a good thing that you did your birthday, 40th birthday. It was a huge party.
Yeah. The second thing is, I must say that regarding this internal rift or the fight inside Israel, the internal fight, I think that since the war things have changed. I wouldn't say that enough, but they did change. I think that there's a big majority today that knows what it wants. I would say very carefully, around 65, 70%, that expect Netanyahu to resign after the war ends and want to go to early elections. Simple as that. There are 30% that are very vocal. Very vocal. And you hear them...
And very powerful in media.
Yeah, very powerful in the media. Once upon a time, the media belonged or was affiliated with the Israeli left. Today, it's very much dominated with the right-wing, pro-Bibi. Not even right-wing, pro-Bibi. But I think that at the end of the day, when you look at the vast majority of the people in Israel, they are very much unite with what they want when the war will end. And they're very much determined about the relations between the religious and the secular and the Orthodox. And I think that today there's a vast majority of people that understand that, the former reality in which ultra-Orthodox didn't serve, didn't go to national service, nothing like that, it cannot continue. And this is why Netanyahu made his mistake a few weeks ago when he insisted on passing this law that was allowing so many people, ultra-Orthodox, not to do anything.
Not to do anything.
But only to get, go study Torah and get money. So I'm a bit more optimistic about the future of the people in Israel. And I think that at the end of the day, we will manage to get out of this crisis more united and even more strong.
So I'll ask you same but different question about the Palestinians. One of the questions that I had in, I think, Boston University was by one of the professors. He told me, when you see the images in the Gaza Strip, when you see what is happening, the destruction, everything, what do you feel? How do you feel? And I told him that I think that the problem of Israelis with what happened on October 7th was not even the Hamas terrorists. It was the people in the Gaza Strip that celebrated and spat on and bodies and participated in you know, in hitting
and raping and killing and slaughtering, all of it.
It was not about Hamas, like it's about the people that were celebrating the massacre on October 7th. And I told him, I think that it will take the Israelis time to regain the trust, if ever they will be able to regain the trust, or to maybe start to forgive the innocent civilian in the Gaza Strip who he thought that can be his neighbor. Do you think that this is something that can ever be repaired?
I think that it happened to Israel and Germany.
It's Susan.
After
she's the one who brought us here.
After the most, you know, terrible tragedy in the history of the Jewish people. So we managed to reconcile with Germany. It happened to Japan and the US. It happened to enemies everywhere. So I think that, yes, it can happen. Now look, as an Israeli, as a Jew, I hate what I see in Gaza. I hate the death of civilians. I hate the death of people, of innocent people. The destruction, and the destruction is huge. There's no doubt about that. I've been a few times in Gaza since the beginning of the war, and it's terrible, and it's shocking. But we have to understand that this is the price of war that was forced on the people of Israel, that was forced on the state of Israel. And I can promise you one thing. If the hostages would have been released and Hamas would give up its weapon, this war would have ended now, tomorrow. Simple as that. And every time that I hear people accusing Israel of genocide, of whatever, I would like to remind them there's no genocide. If Israel wanted to kill all of the Palestinians, they would have done it in 2 hours. This is A. It doesn't want to genocide anyone. But again, let us keep in mind how on earth is this thing started. How did it start? And it started in a massacre, in an attempt to go for a genocide among Jews living on the border. And again, like every time, it drives me crazy to hear all those accusations against Israel. And keep in mind, like, no one wants to see civilians getting killed. No one wants to see international people that are trying to help innocent people getting killed in a terrible, mistaken attack, okay? It was a mistake, and it was a terrible mistake. But at the end of the day, all of this could stop now in a second without killing more people, just releasing hostages and giving up the weapons. That's it. Over.
I'll ask you, you served in Gaza, right?
A bit. I served more in the West Bank.
Did you had any talks in the last few months with your fellow Palestinians?
From the West Bank, yes. In Gaza, I had one phone call, that's it. First of all, it's not that easy to talk to people in Gaza, and B, they don't really want to talk to me, especially Hamas. It's kind of terrible because I have some very good memories. I have some very bad memories also from Gaza, but I have some very good memories from Gaza, from the people there. And it's terrible to wake up one day and to understand that this is what happened to Gaza. You know, the Gaza that I've met till 2007 was quite different. There was a kind of a rift, you know. Half of it was pro-Hamas, half of it was pro-Fatah. I was offered in Gaza to become, I'm going to tell the story in a few seconds. You know, people don't understand how much the hate between Hamas and Fatah is big. How much, not even the competition, but the rivalry. and the hate from both sides against each other. And I joined in 2006 a group of Fatah people that were part of the Preventative Security Force, that they are the equivalent of the Shin Bet, or the FBI, the Internal Security, and they were fighting Hamas. And this specific group, I joined them for a day in Gaza, Rafah, and at some point we sat down for lunch on the beach of Gaza, and we had great fish over there, and it was really nice, and I asked them about their routine, and they said that they're fighting Hamas in the morning, at noon, afternoon, evening, night, early in the morning.
The day after.
The day after, okay, so when do you guys go to sleep? And they said, we do not go to sleep. I said, how come that you do not go to sleep? And they said, like, we take this, and one of them puts his hand into his pocket, pulls out a pill, shows it to me, and he says, we take that, and it gives us a lot of energy. I said, what kind of a pill is that? I said, I don't know, but if someone is laughing, I'm laughing with him. If someone is crying, I'm crying with him. At that point, I was like,
okay, let's talk.
What's the name of this pill? And he said, I don't know, but I can find out if you want me to. I said, please. And he says, he calls someone and closed the phone. He said, Hada ya akhi, this is my brother, ecstasy. And I'm looking at him like that, and I'm saying, do you understand this is drugs? He said, yeah, but everyone here are taking that. So that really made me calm. Because they're taking ecstasy for a good cause, to fight Hamas. And then he said, Avi, how much does this cost in Tel Aviv? And that was 2006, the peak of the war between Hamas and Fatah over Gaza. I said, I don't know, but I can find out if you want me to. He said, please do. So I called...
you know that this talk is broadcast, yeah? Just saying.
So forget about it. So I called this a specialist, a police officer.
Of course.
And the specialist is saying the number, and I closed the phone and said, Yachi, my brother, this is 50 shekels each. And his eyes are like that, and he says, if I would give you 2,000 pills for 30 shekels, would you take that?
And sell it for me?
Yeah, I mean, no, sell it for me. I mean, I just need to pay. And, this was the offer that I got in Gaza, in Rafah, to become a drug dealer.
And look what came out.
Yeah.
The screenwriter.
So this is why I'm smiling a lot on that stage.
You still have more.
But, the experiences that I had in Gaza are like mind-blowing. Really, I mean, it's the craziest place ever, especially for an Israeli journalist. I found myself leading a huge march of Hamas funeral, 10 people that were killed. And I'm at the front of a march like that, and I'm interviewing the guys with the mask, and and I'm asking them, and my Arabic used to be way better than now, because I got to forget that. I tend to forget that.
You need to get married with an Arab woman.
Yeah, I know. And I asked him a few questions in Arabic, and he noticed that something is strange about the accent, but he had to look now. He's not that stupid. So, and again, I was almost kidnapped in Rafah, and just in a meeting, I get a phone call from an IDF officer who tells me, the people around you are about to kidnap you. And it's great, in Rafah, sitting in a house with so many people around me, an IDF officer tells you they're about to kidnap you, and you need to find your way out of there. And as you can see and understand, I managed to find my way out of there. But that was so much fun about Gaza. I love it.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So where's Susan? So she can tell me this. Susan, should we take the questions? Still, you have time? Still have time? Yeah, we still have time.
No one can move us from here.
Yeah, then basically no one can. Yeah, we can still. Okay, so you're enjoying yourselves, right? Okay. How do I know that there are Jewish people in the audience? Your questions are so long. It's like you never so how was it? No, it's like a manifest. And then the question mark. See, I don't even see the question mark. Okay, we know Fauda has been popular not only in Israel, plus America, etc., but also across the Arab world as well. Since October 7th, has your thinking about stories connected so well across diverse audiences changed or not? You see, it's an opinion inside a question. How can we make peace with you guys?
Yeah. I know. But, you know, it's two Jews, you have at least 4 opinions in one.
Well, of course.
Look, what we had in mind when we started Fauda is to do a small show that maybe some Israelis would watch. We hardly expected a lot of Israelis to watch it. We didn't think that anyone would take it, and no one wanted it at the beginning. Keshet, Reshet, and all of them said no. So it was a kind of a big surprise when Yes Television took it, and then aired it, and then suddenly people in Israel watched it, and then it became kind of huge in Israel, and then it was on Netflix. But one thing that I think that one of the keys to the success of Fauda was that we never tried to feed the audience, meaning we didn't try to be nice to the audience. I mean, we did things that normal script writers would never do. Simple as that. Because we wanted the audience to be interested, intrigued, shocked sometimes, just like what happened on the 7th episode of the first season, if you remember, with Boaz. Mm-hmm. Like, this is shocking. Or the way that what happened to Shirin on the 2nd season, and the way that we finish up the 4th season, it's kind of not trying to be nice to the audience. So I'm not trying to now talk to a diverse audience, yes or no.
And you humanize the other side.
Yeah, I'm trying to create an interesting show. My aim now is how can I create an interesting show in the 5th season following October 7th. And yes, this is my mission, this is my aim. Whether it's going to be that or that, you'll need to wait for the 5th season.
Okay. Next question. What has been the reaction of Arab Israelis on October 7th and now 6 months later? Oh, wow.
So, I want to ask you, because thank God Israeli Arabs are very much not thinking one thought.
Of course.
Like you would like the Jews, only a bit worse. I mean,
yeah.
You are very much diverse.
Me.
You.
Me. Mm-hmm.
But I think that Israeli Arabs are very much diverse. I mean, you can find so many political parties. You can find so many different opinions. I know that there's not one opinion, but can you describe it in a kind of a general way what happened to the Israeli Arabs?
I think that what happened, you know, few weeks ago, I was sitting in my show, like on my show, and one of the analysts there, we spoke about Israeli Arabs and about the reaction of Israeli Arabs after October 7th. And suddenly he said, you guys really, really well behaved. And I was like, excuse me? No, you really acted like grown-ups, and it's amazing to see that. And I was like, what did you expect from me? Now the problem is that after October 7th, when October 7th broke, the immediate reaction in the Israeli Jewish community in Israel was that the Israeli Arabs are going to join Hamas, because of the events that occurred
May 21st.
Yeah, on May 21st. And the days passed, and it didn't happen. Not only that it didn't happen, you know, more than 200 Israeli Arabs were murdered on October 7th. And I think that October 7th not only shocked Israeli Jews, but it also shocked Israeli Arabs. But more than that, it made Israel, a lot of Israeli Arabs to finally admit their Israeli ID. It's like, you know, a lot of Israeli Arabs are saying, okay, I'm Palestinian living in Israel. I'm Palestinian Israeli. I am like trying to, you know,
alienate.
Yeah, alienate and, you know, just put aside the Israeli identity that they have in them. They're forgetting that when they're traveling with an Israeli passport. And I'm going to say the fucked up thing with Israeli Arabs, with us, is that we have only Israeli passport. It's like you guys are going to look for other passports, you know?
I have a Palestinian one.
A Portuguese, Greek, French one, an American one. You have like 2 nationalities. I only have one. Me as an Israeli Arab have only the Israeli passport, only the Israeli ID. I don't have any other ID. I don't have any other nationality. And I think that October 7th just like, it was a slap in the face of a lot of Israeli Arabs to admit that basically we are part of Israel whether we like it or not. And Israel is part of us whether we like it or not. And the Israeli identity is part of us whether we like it or not. And I think that I told this guy, I told him, really, I feel really uncomfortable with the way that you're treating me. I'm not a little child. You know, I'm not someone that when you expect always the worst from me, it will never end, you know? You can understand, like, especially with the Israeli Arab community inside Israel. It's like, it's
I think that one of the worst surprises that happened to Hamas in this war is that just like many Israelis expected,
Ramadan.
They thought that the Israeli Arabs would join them on October 7th.
And they didn't.
It didn't happen.
And they didn't. And look, Ramadan. Everybody expected the worst in Ramadan.
Yeah.
Everybody expected, they said this Ramadan is going to be the worst. Even last Ramadan, when Ben Gvir was, you know, elected and he's our national security minister. Wow. I cannot even believe that I'm saying this.
No.
Each and every time that I say Itamar Ben Gvir, our national security minister, it's just like
if it
shocking.
wasn't sad, it would have been funny. I mean,
of course.
Yeah, it sounds like a joke, and it is a joke.
Of course, but this is, you know, if we're opening this what happens when extremists are using democratic basics and democratic, you know, morals to fight democracy. This is exactly what is happening. Because in the name of freedom of speech, we said, like, you know, liberals in Israel, we said, oh, we cannot not allow Itamar Ben Gvir to speak, although he is, you know, racist, coming from the Kahana movement. Like the older audience here will remember that when Kahana used to enter the Knesset members used to get out from the Knesset because they didn't want to listen to him and give him the stage. And us, you know, the liberal society, like in the last few years, we said, okay, we cannot not allow Itamar Ben Gvir the stage to speak because, you know, it's freedom of speech. And he used the freedom of speech to basically hurt democracy, to try and overrule the judicial system, to try and put racist ideas inside the Israeli society, hate ideas. And you know, I see it also happening here. It's also happening in the United States. And you know, it's like freedom of speech. Wow, and everything, right? Everything is so inspiring, right? Oh my God, this is so inspiring. Oh my God, I just saw like this video on TikTok and she was so inspiring. Oh my God. And she has like 10,000 followers and she's so smart. Oh my God. And you say to yourself, why is everything inspiring? What really inspiring became such a trash word? It's like inspiring is David Ben-Gurion.
It's Martin Luther King.
Is, you know, Golda Meir, okay?
Yeah.
Inspiring is Egypt's president that signed the peace agreement with Israel.
Yeah. No,
Sadat,
I said...
Anwar Sadat that paid with his life. This is inspiring.
I've mentioned Martin Luther King because, you know,
Inspiring.
We had a chance to meet two of the family members of the hostages on Saturday. And one of them met with leaders from the black community. And he said to them that, you know, this movement that was so important, so amazing, that started with liberal ideas of Martin Luther King, that was anti-violence. Why do some people affiliate themselves with a terrorist organization that is calling for the elimination of the Jewish people, for the state of Israel, instead of alienating themselves from that? So I think that, you know, Martin Luther King was inspiring. And I think that this is what we need to look for in this country also.
Yeah, so about the Israeli-Arab, I hope that I answered the question. We have here a question in Hebrew. ביחס לרשות הפלסטינית, האם יש היתכנות, it's okay that I'm just asking the question, and I will translate it, please. ביחס לרשות הפלסטינית, האם יש היתכנות לשלטון של הרשות, שעה שחמאס זוכים ל-70% תמיכה בעם הפלסטיני?
Regarding the PA, is there any probability for a Palestinian Authority control or regime over Gaza, I guess, when 70% of the Palestinians, according to the polls, support Hamas? The answer is yes, there is a probability. It's not going to be easy. I think that it's going to take some time. It's a challenge, but again, just like I said before, it's not that we're facing in Gaza a great opportunity, a great solution in the face of the PA, okay? We have Hamas, which is the worst solution, and I don't want Hamas to remain in power in Gaza. The other solution is Israeli occupation, and that's also a very bad idea if you ask me. And I think that the less worse is the PA. And this is the thing that we need to face, and this is the need that we can try to improve and try to help them. And at the end, it's quite amazing and shocking to understand that even now, while we are speaking, the security ties between the PA and Israel still continue to be very strong and firm. I mean, yes, you have some Palestinian Authority officers that were executing terrorist attacks. But at the same time, you have some intelligence security officers, Palestinians, that are arresting members of Hamas, arresting members of Islamic Jihad, and prevent attacks against Israelis in the West Bank.
Yeah, so these two questions are also about, I think that it's connected. It's like, what would, about cooperation with the Palestinian Authority, what would make a two-state, I think, profile?
Possible.
Possible. There is a limit to my English also.
Two-state solution right now, it's not something that is realistic, if to be honest. I mean...
So what is realistic then, other than a two-state solution? I will nominate you to the Nobel Prize if you will have an answer to that.
No, I think that, you know, again, we talked about the opportunity. This is what we need to create, an opportunity. I think that right now the two-state solution is not realistic, it's not possible. I think that maybe with time it might turn. Right now I think that we need to just focus on Gaza, have the PA, and discuss later the two-state solution. Two-state solution need different leadership, different leaders. Not only on the Israeli side, but also on the Palestinian side, and I'm not talking about Hamas. Even Mahmoud Abbas, President Abu Mazen, whom I know personally, whom I've met so many times in 4 eyes.
And he loves you.
He
respects
kind of likes
you.
me, yeah. And he smokes a lot, by the way. He's 88 years old plus, smoking like crazy. Every time that he wants a cigarette, he pushes the red button. Then comes one of his assistants. Let's name him S. And S pulls out a pack of cigarettes, lit up a cigarette, and the president smokes. Then one day I'm getting a phone call from S. And he's saying, Avi, I've watched season 4 of Fauda. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. I said, okay. He said, you gotta say hi to Doron and Captain Ayub. So I called Lior and Itzik Cohen, and Itzik Cohen prepared him a clip, and I sent him to S. Yeah, kinda. And then S made me promise him that we're going to make a special screening of Fauda 5th season in his house in the West Bank.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but...
After October 7th?
Yeah.
Thank you for an excellent panel. You're welcome. That's it? Is that? Yeah. What do you make of yesterday's pullback? Would there still be a Rafah invasion? And how long will the current government last? Israeli government last? Wow.
No, there are too many if about that, because we don't know if there's going to be a ceasefire. Let's assume that there's a ceasefire, so of course no Operation Rafah. No ceasefire, I think that we will see an Israeli Operation Rafah, just in order to show Hamas we mean business, even though there's a lot of heat against Israel right now in the international public opinion, in the US, etc. I think that even the American administration, if Hamas will say no, refuse to their proposal, will give a kind of silent blessing to Israel to go and take care of Rafah. Now, Rafah, at the end of the day, I'm going to say something that I wrote in Yediot Aharonot a few weeks ago. The big problem with Israel is not Rafah. There are some, let's say, 4 battalions over there. They're not the strongest ones of Hamas. We can defeat them, okay? The problem would be the day after Rafah. What happens then? Okay, so fish Hamas, okay? There's no Hamas anymore. What happens next? And this is the thing that the state of Israel needs to prepare to. Operation, it's important. I'm not saying that
Israel
it's not important.
Israel cannot allow itself to have the same situation that the United States had in Iraq when they invaded Iraq and went out.
Militarily speaking, we defeat Hamas. Simple as that. I know that you don't hear a lot about that in the news, but militarily speaking, not strategically, not politically, not diplomatically, militarily speaking, I've been there on the ground. I must say, we're beating Hamas to the ground. They are left. They don't have much left. Yes, I mean, they still have around 10,000 people, but it's from 36,000 people that they had at the beginning of this war. They don't have too many rockets. But even after you wipe out the 10,000, again, exit plan, the day after.
And I will, just before we're finishing, I know we were not able to answer everything, but you know, I will say something, and I think that Avi agrees here, will agree with me. Israel is talking about a complete victory. And there won't be any complete victory without the return of 133 hostages that we still have in the Gaza Strip. I think that the state of Israel cannot allow itself to have 133 citizens sitting in the tunnels in the Gaza Strip. They're not in another continent. They're not in space. They're in the Gaza Strip, which is a 2-hour drive from Tel Aviv. And we cannot, as the country, that on October 7th, and it's very difficult to say it, but we lost on October 7th. And after what happened on October 7th, we cannot lose again, because we will lose again if we won't return, make sure that they're returning back to their families. And you know, I speak a lot with the hostages' families, and we were traumatized, and we're still digesting the trauma that happened on October 7th. I don't think we understand what happened to us exactly on October 7th. I don't think that we understand the magnitude. And I know that we're adding another post-trauma to all the traumas that we already experienced in Israel. But the Israeli society and Israel won't be able to stand, won't be able to repair itself if the hostages won't come back home. And this has to be our initial goal. This has to be our prior goal, to bring them back home now. I want to thank Avi Sachau for being with me. And I want to thank you all. Thank you very much for giving us this honor to speak in front of you. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak in front of you. This is such a great honor. And we hope to see you in better circumstances.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.